Welcome to the All Things Real Estate Podcast with our very own Josh Barker. With more than 20 years of experience and over 5,000 properties sold, Josh brings a unique perspective to the real estate market. Let's get started.
Hey, Josh.
What's up, buddy?
It's July.
Yes, it is.
And I'm struggling to keep a straight face right now.
We laugh too much all the time.
I get the giggles, man. So,
Me too.
you know, this is, even though it's July, it feels like it's a cooler, muggier July than in the past. Like instead of 110, it's only 98, but it's humid.
It feels, well, there's a lot of clouds in the skies.
Yeah. So it's a little bit, I don't know if that's one off. We went out to the lake the other day and the lake is still pretty full.
Yeah, it is.
And things are, looking pretty good for the end of July,
Yes.
middle to end July.
Yep.
I don't know if that helps real estate in any way. I think the sucker grass is gone. I think that left
Yeah.
a while ago.
Yeah.
But are you seeing anything change in sales or anything like that? Or how's the summer going?
Yeah, summer's good. Yeah, I mean, sales volume is, trending pretty well. We're probably going to have pendings that'll be slightly softer this month than last month, based on where we're at now. For July, I can kind of see that happening for the market. It's interesting, actually. I think it caught a few people off guard. I don't know what that's related to. I can't say what it could be related to, otherwise we get flagged. But there's a few things happening out there in the world that might be contributing to that. But this summer, at least in the middle of Q3, it's a little different than we had a lot of momentum going into Q3, and it feels like it softened up just a little bit.
Slowing down a little bit?
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Are you seeing like changes in prices? Is that affecting price, or is it now it's steady?
Well, if you look at the median sales price and the average sales price in the market, it looks pretty stable year over year. But agents will tell you right now that they feel like pricing is softening a little bit. And that would be for primarily homes that are under 500,000 is where they're seeing a lot of that. And that's interesting because, it had been pretty solid the whole time. And now we see it softening a little bit. And I think that's providing more options for buyers and things like that.
Okay, that's kind of like a contradiction. Is the data doesn't say it, but they feel it. What's causing an agent to go? The data says X, but I feel Y. Why? What's causing that?
Yeah, actually, thank you. I should explain that. So when you look at sales reports, right, the median sales price is based on the closings up to that moment when you ran that report. Mm-hmm. The average sales price up to the moment you ran that report, it's everything that's closed going backwards. When I say that people are feeling like the pricing is softening a little bit, that's actually looking forward. You're looking at active inventory. You're looking at homes that are currently just going under contract right now. And those prices tend to be a little softer than they were with the closing report previously.
So it's maybe like they're in negotiations right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't hit the numbers sheet yet.
Right.
But people are starting to say like, hey.
Yeah, we're at the tip of the spear in terms of what's happening in the market. So we can feel or anticipate when markets are softening a little bit because we can see what's happening with the active inventory and the pending inventory and what buyers are having to choose from when they're out in the streets every day right now. Most of the reporting that we provide is things that have happened already, and we're just reporting on what's already happened.
So the absorption rate we were talking before the camera started rolling is at I think you said 4.5?
Yeah, about 4.5 months supply. So if no other homes came up for sale, it would take 4.5 months to sell off the inventory. I don't anticipate that number growing too much between now and the end of the year because as we go into Q4 in the future, obviously fewer people come to market. And so if the sales volume remains somewhat consistent as the inventory falls, the absorption rate will stay about the same.
So is it the pendings are taking longer, or is it just you go out to show a house and you've got 9 options instead of 5? What is the data that they're seeing that's saying like, hey, this market's softening a little bit?
Well, pendings are softening a little bit. I mean, we're probably around 10 or 15% softening in the pendings right now. The overall pendings in general are down too. I mean, we had crested at any given time about 400 pendings at a time, and now we're in the low 300 pendings at a time.
That is a big.
And so that means there will be fewer closings. So that's what I was saying. We had a lot of momentum going into Q3, but it now feels like that perhaps the market is going to start to slow down a little earlier this year. And what could change that tomorrow would be is if interest rates, for example, were to go down quickly, that would have a corresponding effect of increasing buyer demand.
Where are interest rates right now?
We're averaging nationally around 6.5%. That's something that we keep an eye on. I think the Federal Reserve, I just got flagged for that.
I think you could say that.
Oh, you can?
I think you can go that far.
But in any case, those folks who are responsible for interest
Josh, we
rates,
know that the Federal Reserve is not a government entity.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
It's just a private bank.
It's a private bank.
A small group of people that run the world. No big deal.
No big deal.
Illuminati.
They're meeting, I think, at this time for this podcast, it's around now that they're meeting. And that the expectation is that they're not going to raise the interest rate, which means that I think that the mortgage rate will likely, even though it's not directly tied to that, it is indirectly. I don't think that you're going to see rates going up, at least right now.
Well, like the factors that they take in for the interest rates, obviously inflation's the big one. And I don't know where that number is.
Right.
I know that I get sticker shock when I buy anything.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the mid threes right now.
Yeah, fuel went down quite a bit. I think we peaked pretty darn high.
Yeah.
And that the other day I filled up my truck and I could actually fill it up. Before it was, the credit card stopped at 175 and it still wasn't full. And I was like, oh my goodness, diesel was insane.
I know.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
But everything else is like, it feels like it's creeping up quite a bit. And so I guess that's why they have to keep interest rates high. And, kind of related, but not related is the fact that like the stock market and all the tech stuff is just gobbling up money.
It is.
And so people are like, oh, I gotta buy this tech stock instead of building a home or investing in real estate. It seems like, the money always has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Right now, everyone's like, got AI fever.
That would be a macro assessment for sure. There might be people that are choosing not to invest in real estate nationally, and putting their money towards other things in the stock market, for example. But like we've talked about on many other times in the past, is that renting is really a necessity purchase more than a discretionary one. We don't have a lot of investor participation anyway. So I think, and the order of things that are important, I need a place to live is over doing something else, for example, like buying, whatever, fill in the blank AI company you're talking about. So I do think that right now what we're really seeing is that there's this intersection between availability of financing related to interest rates and the buyer participation as a result of that. So buyer demand is coming down a little bit. That could be likely mostly just as a result of affordability. And
are we still seeing the rental market was like really creeping up fast?
It's still very tight. I was just at lunch a few days ago with a local property manager that has about 1,000 properties under management, and they've been as low as 4% vacancy in the last 6 months. And so, and they've had many times it's been 6 or 7, but yeah, it's still relatively low for sure. Which means for those listening, when you have vacancy rates that low, it means that rents are still, either holding or going up. And that's still the reality right now.
Which is another driving factor, because at some point, if the rents just creep up to the, somewhat equivalent to a mortgage, then why wouldn't you buy? You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and with inflation, and part of this, California's inflation situation is much more greater than other states in the country because our minimum wage has been pushed up so quickly, and most of that's been absorbed in all the corresponding effects to that. So even though a minimum wage went up, well, so did rents, so did the cost for food and the cost for services. So, the only person that really wins in that equation is I guess the government, because they collect more taxes.
Imagine that.
So
feels like the fox in the hen house type thing.
Well, it just means, for people that are wondering, I think, again, in renting, it's so different. People buy because they need to. And you have the choice between renting, which is not a great prospect all the time, or buying, which isn't also always a great prospect. It comes down to what your goals are. But we are telling buyers right now that, the market's is definitely pretty flat and stable. In some cases, it might be softening, and that's more of a recent development. So if you're going to buy a home right now, we need to buy with the thoughts that it might be a little bit of a longer term. You don't want to buy one and think you're going to sell next year and have a windfall profit as a result.
And we still are not seeing building permits being pulled. We don't have like a big lineup of
So you have two issues at one time. So you have one, which is we still have an incredible amount of property owners who are locked into their homes at 3% more interest rates, who could literally not afford to buy the very home they live in now if they bought it with today's interest rates. Mm-hmm. So they're stuck. They're not moving. and for good reason. And then the second side of that is that, okay, well, if that's not going to replenish the housing market, then what can? And you look at new construction as being an option, but current home pricing makes it very difficult for home builders to build a product, compete against the existing inventory, and be profitable when they do it, right? And so that's an issue. And there's only a handful of homes permits being pulled this year. I think we're at almost 50 through June,
which is nothing
for the city of Reading, down from 135,
which isn't very high
through June last year.
Population,
that's right.
That's not very much at all.
It's not, and so yeah, 50 year to date through June. Last year, 135 new permits pulled year to date through June. We're down, I don't know what that percentage is, but it sounds like 75, 80%.
Something like that.
So it's not good. We anticipated that earlier this year. And, there's a handful of small builders that are trying to do a few things, and then Palomar. But D.R. Horton is still unwinding right now as we speak. They're continuing to tell us that they're going to be finishing up a couple of the projects they have, and they're planning to exit. So Palomar will probably be the largest local builder anyway, taking over in that space. And there'll be other builders too that we're hopeful that will continue to participate too. And I can tell you, even Palomar wants to see that happen.
I don't understand why D.R. Horton would be leaving. I mean, were they just sitting on inventory? Their homes kind of sold just about as fast as they came to market, didn't they?
Well, they're a national home builder, and there's other markets that are performing better than Reading, and so they'd like to reallocate those resources and assets and leadership and management to places where they're more profitable. So the local builders here are all focused on keeping the local subcontractors and contractors and housing supply warehouses, et cetera, busy. They're vested here. They're stakeholders here. They want to be successful here for their community. And, a lot of the outside of the area folks that might look at our area, we're one of many options they have.
So we've got very low inventory. Well, at 4.5, we're at a neutral market. We don't have anything in the horizon for inventory replenishment, unless interest rates drop dramatically, and there's no signs of that like in the near future at all. Yeah,
it's not looking good yet.
We were real hopeful last year that we would be in the 5s by now. And
we were moving that way until this whole fuel issue. Until this fuel issue kicked in.
You think if that were to change, do you really think interest rates would come down?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, but not as a result of just fuel. It's just the corresponding effect of that going into the entire market. So,
fuel, everything. Yeah, everything has to be delivered.
Fuel is essentially the foundation, the bedrock in which the entire economy is built off of. So, if fuel cost goes up, it pushes everything else up with it. And then, of course, when those fuel costs go down, it actually brings down the core, what we call core CPI across the board. So, fuel's the biggest foundational building block of it all.
So, I mean, I still am not. I've been very optimistic about the Reading market for a long time because there's just a few factors of just like, number one, that when you look at the state of California, our housing is as much as it's gone up, it's still dramatically lower than anywhere else in the state.
Oh, sure.
And we have all the resources for people. Are people still moving here, or is that just kind of slowed down too?
You mean from other areas to Reading? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing some. I mean, we're working with clients right now that are from Sacramento. We have a couple set of clients that are from the Bay Area. I would say that they're there. The representation, at least for our office, is probably maybe 2 out of 10 are from outside of the area, and that could be related to our marketing efforts and what we try to do too. So we're promoting a lot of our properties up and down the state and across the country, and so that does cause us to engage probably more frequently with an out-of-town person versus an office that might only be marketing, locally. And so that might be why we're seeing it more, but it's about 2 out of 10, I think, is what we're looking at. So it's still happening, but it's nothing like it was. I mean, if you were to go back to 2020 and all the things were happening back then with the massive disruption, migration patterns and things like that, we're way down from there. But we are better than we had been probably in 2015. So we're better than we were back then.
We have all the infrastructure to be way more mobile than we've ever been.
Absolutely.
And telework and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So, I'm not hearing anything like, everyone's been on the edge of like the market's crashing. It's because that's national news. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, it's just slowing down mildly.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
It is. I mean, we keep an eye on the foreclosure activity too, and I look at that about every 2 weeks to see if there's any major adjustments, and there hasn't been. I mean, we have about 160 single-family units that are in some stage of foreclosure in the entire county, and that's out of over 55,000 households that were in that report.
Very small number.
Only a third of those actually typically even make it to foreclosure, which means that's like 80. If you put that, I'm sorry, not 80. That puts you at about, what is that? 50-ish, 55, 60 maybe. And that would be over the course of, 6 months if they were to actually go to foreclosure. And so, 10 a month out of, hundreds of deals, just not a big
It's not really going to have an effect. I mean, it affects the people, and feel sorry for anybody that's going through that.
Exactly.
We always say, like, reach out to lenders, reach out to realtors, find out your options. Don't bury your head in the sand. I mean, you still, the market's very, very good. And anybody who's in foreclosure that's owned their home more than maybe a year or 2 years is probably sitting on equity.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's at the very least investigate that, because there's probably 3 ways you can consider it. One would be is that you could work something out with your lender and renegotiate your loan, which would be a good option. Second one would be is that you could, if you have equity, you could choose to sell the property. And there's a couple ways to do that. You can go to the open market, which is what we would always recommend. But we also have our instant offer program where we literally just buy it for you. There's a couple restrictions in it, but if you're interested in it, reach out. Another one is that you can do what's called a short sale, where you negotiate with the bank that they'll allow you to sell it for less than what's owed on the mortgage. So if you are underwater, you don't have to go to foreclosure if you don't want to. You can still do what's called a short sale, and we've done hundreds of those.
Especially in 08, 09, that was the short sale market.
And we've done them recently. So we are still doing them. It's still a solution for a homeowner. And so if you're underwater on your mortgage and you don't want a foreclosure on your record, we talk about how to do a short sell. And what it is we get an offer the best we can, and then we negotiate with the bank and have them agree that they'll accept less than what's owed on the mortgage because they don't want to take it back.
No, there's a lot of overhead for them to take that on.
Yep. And so that's another option. Yep, for sure.
Okay, so the bottom line there is if you're in pre-foreclosure or it's at any point, just reach out to a professional.
Yes.
Get some help. Just, there's no obligation.
Yep.
This is going to be a horrible segue, but I stopped by your new office the other day.
Oh, okay.
And congratulations. That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
It looks good from the outside, but it looks really good on the inside. The interior design, my takeaway, like when I walked in, it felt like a lodge. I felt like I was a really nice lodge, I might add, like a shack. No, it was. I love the open ceilings and everything. The floor plan was, and you had mentioned the lady that did the design. She did a great job.
They did a great job. So Gifford Construction built it for us, and Sandy Bade was our designer that did the interior design work for us. I mean, she sat down with my wife and I, and we're not gifted designers.
Me either.
But Sandy is. So she was able to take what our tastes were and what we were trying to accomplish, and she made it into a nice reality. So,
well, I thought your old office was pretty darn good. I was like, when you said you were building, I was like, I think this one's nice, but the new one is at least one step up.
Thank you.
So you went from good to great. Why did you build a new building? Like, was it space or what? I mean,
well, I would say our new building was probably not a financially responsible decision for us to make.
Really?
But my wife and I, our 2 older daughters are in the business with us too. And, we spend a lot of time, serving our customers at our office, all the time. So because you're spending that many hours in a location, and our agents work full time at a location too. I mean, if you drive by, you're going to see the parking lot's pretty much always full.
Always.
And so, because you have that type of participation at a high level and everybody else is committed to it, we at the very least needed to be committed back. So we tried to make it a really good environment for them. And, what we're shooting for is we just want to continue to be a one-on-one, boutique, high service office for the families that we get to serve in the community.
You guys don't have a dollar menu?
Well, no, we don't have a dollar menu.
The drive-through?
No. And for us, it's just, because we want that personal touch with it, we want our agents to have private offices and be able to meet with families, privately, and just have a different experience than if you were to, talk to somebody over the phone and, you show up at a house and you guys are talking about a contract over a car. for me, that's just not the standard of service or care that we wanted to deliver. So we just went another route with it.
Well, it looks great.
Thank you.
A couple other, another great horrible segue is, because I'm always curious, is how's commercial doing? Is commercial real estate, it was doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing a lot of construction. Maybe I'm not driving around town enough.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing new stuff.
There's not, which is why some of the commercial stuff is doing pretty well. I mean, I just did a transaction with 2 buildings, and I would call it like A- probably in quality. So single story, A- quality. And so good space, built in the mid 2000s, like maybe 2006 or 7. About $200 a foot is what they sold for. So, if you take one of them was a 8,300 square foot building. So that would be, a little over $1.6 million. The other one's 7,700 square feet. So that one's about $1.4 million, right? So right in there is kind of where those would be at. They're going pretty quick. I mean, if they're presented well, they show well. And if their ADA type of compliance issues are not really big issues, and if there's not a whole lot of work that has to be done to them, they're selling pretty quick.
Well, what I'm noticing is driving around, just caught my eye a few times that, hey, all of a sudden this older building's got new stucco, it's got new paint, the parking lot's been redone, there's plants. So I've kind of noticed that like older commercial stuff is getting upgraded.
It is,
because that's a really good sign.
It is, yeah. So when you see some of the older buildings getting repurposed or getting a nice facelift, so to speak, and presented to the market again, it's because it's in many cases less expensive to do that than it is to go through the process of new construction. With new construction, you've got not just the planning, but all the new codes. I mean, we went through a ton to build our building that we just built. I mean, it was a lot of work and very expensive now to do it. And I've built, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 buildings myself over the years. And this one by far was the most challenging, I guess you could put it, from a governance perspective.
What level is that at? Is that at the state or is that the city or what is that?
It's a combination of both, really. So the state obviously has its own requirements for the building code, and then they pass that down to the counties, and the counties and cities are the ones that have to, basically fulfill that requirement. But they're not making it any easier on you. I mean, I went back and forth with the city multiple times related to plants on the parking lot. So I was like, what's holding us up? Plants. Okay. I'm like, okay. So I think they're still pretty good at majoring in the minors.
I was literally thinking that, and when you said, before you said it, you stole my thunder. Yeah. That was my line.
And the state has their own things. I mean, we were done with everything on our building, and they had a representative that the state of California hires that comes in. So they're not your building inspector. They're not your contractor. They're not your electrician. They're not your engineer. They are completely independent who come in on for the behalf of the state to make sure that none of those guys messed anything up. So that's a new one. And they literally went through every one of our offices to
but that's probably a volunteer position. They probably don't get paid to do that. It's probably for free. That was a free service, right?
The only thing I was happy about was that particular person did live here locally. Even though they were hired by the state of California under contract, they did live here locally. So at the very least, we know that extra expense to make sure my lights were turning off when they were supposed to. I'm glad it at least went to somebody locally.
Yeah, I don't see any changes. I mean, hopefully, I'm not tracking the whole Palisades thing, but I mean, everything I see is that they're just not building, and that's been. I don't know if you never know if this stuff is. The information comes in, and you don't know if you're getting right information or not. But it's been like, it's such a nightmare to rebuild.
Oh, I have friends down there now. I mean, what do you want to know?
Is it a nightmare to rebuild?
It's still terrible. They haven't changed hardly anything. They've claimed to streamline the process, which was you take a process that on a scale of 1 to 10, it's 1,000 problems, right? Yeah. And they still managed to cut down 10% of that. So it's still really bad, and they are moving slow. It's unfortunate because a lot of those people have moved on. Obviously you can't wait that many years to get started.
What's the term? You don't get the government you want, you get the government you deserve, or something like that.
Yeah,
if we're not going to do anything about it, if we're just going to complain and not make any changes,
it's bureaucracy is the real thing, and all these rules and all the extra heavy requirements that you put on something, it definitely slows down growth. And we are experiencing a season of massive amounts of consequences for huge amounts of overregulation, and so whether or not that ever changes, I don't know. I mean, what'll probably end up happening is that these people will eventually just ask AI, what should we do? And they're gonna be like, get rid of 100% of what you're doing, or 90% of what you're doing.
I was watching a thing the other day that said you opened up Pandora's box when you said AI. You know that. You should, you did it, not me.
Does that knock it down or something?
No. Just the fact that anybody says AI around Joey,
gotcha.
I get my soapbox out and step up on it. But I was watching a thing saying, we have AGI.
Yeah.
We had it for a while based on the definitions in 2010. And I went through my dystopian phase, this, and I'm not in a utopian phase, but my idea that it was going to hurt our economy keeps getting lessened and lessened. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I know this is a real estate podcast, but I'm not thinking it's going to have the negative impact. I think it actually is going to have the positive impact on our GDP as it gets adopted and stuff like that. And so I'm hopeful. I don't know what that's going to do, but that would be awesome if we replace some of the bureaucracy with AI. Because just to say like, hey, can we get this permit through? Yeah, sure. Because it's always happy to me. It's when I talk to him, it's like, Joey, you're a genius. You're awesome, buddy. This was a great idea. I'm like, well, thank you. Let's continue.
Well, I'm hopeful for that too. I'm not putting my faith in AI in that regard, but I think that if an algorithm can help us to find ways to become more efficient, why wouldn't you use it?
Well, removing all of the emotion and ideology and everything out of it, and just saying, hey, how do we get homes for these people? Like, I don't know, build them maybe.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, and I think that's important to people to keep in mind. It's like when the government says, we want to build homes, they're not in the home building business.
No.
So the only thing they can do is they can simplify the building process by getting rid of some of the regulation, right? So ultimately, we're going back to that. And that'll be a broken record, I assume, forever, at least here. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Josh, thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of your July, and I'll see you in August.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, buddy.
If you're enjoying the All Things Real Estate podcast, please feel free to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.